Welcome to Airgun Extra, brought to you in association with Crackshot, the Southwest's premier airgun centre and ranges. In this week's episode, we've got a long-term test of a very affordable telescopic sight that I've been putting through its paces for almost 10 years. Before that though, I'm back out on my farmyard pest control duties, targeting pigeons, corvids and even rats by daylight. Summertime offers some brilliant variety for airgun hunting. Now, one of my favourite scenarios is rabbit shooting, and I'm pleased to say that the rabbits have really bounced back on quite a few of my permissions this summer, and I've had some brilliant evenings out on my belly using a bipod for support and picking off rabbits as they emerge to feed at dusk. Although we're doing something very different from that today. We're back on the farm and I'm going to be targeting avian pests. Rooks, crows, jackdaws and wood pigeons have been causing some real problems on this farm. They've really descended and they've been raiding animal feed, also the grain store, and on top of that there's obviously the disease risk from their dropping. So the intention is to thin them out as much as we can, but more than that is also just to convince any that we don't manage to shoot that the farm isn't a safe place to hang around, and hopefully persuade them to move on and settle somewhere else. Now, I'm actually going to be setting up a couple of decoys, not so much to attract the birds, because the things I've already mentioned, the animal feed and the grain, that's the attraction here. But obviously, we've been walking around, we've already had a bit of a recce. I've been talking now. That's going to put the birds on edge. So when they arrive, they're going to expect to see birds around the farm already. So I'm just going to pop out a couple of decoys just to suggest to them that there are other birds here, either feeding or planning to swoop in and feed, just to give them the confidence to come and land and return to where they were before we arrived. Right, so I've picked a spot inside this barn. I hope I've got enough cover with my head net on. The theory being that the birds that pitch in the trees are going to be out in pretty much full light. Their eyes will be adjusted to that light. We're in here in pretty deep shade. It should be very difficult for them to spot us. Now, the area that I'm targeting is some trees that the birds usually use as a bit of a lookout before they commit to actually landing in the farm. So they're just on the trees are just on the edge of the yard, probably about 25-30 metres from where I'm sat, and a couple of them also look like they're half dead. And although that's a shame for the trees, it's going to be helpful for me because it means that any birds that land in those trees should present me with pretty clear silhouette shots. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And there is our first one, and that was a jackdaw. And you'll notice from the scope cam footage that I actually took that one with a heart and lung shot. Now, jackdaws are fairly slight birds, and it tends to be that as long as you hit them squarely in the engine room, they tend to come down cleanly killed, as that one certainly proved. Headshot that time, and working from such a stable shooting position wasn't a particularly tricky shot. So this setup zeroed at 30 metres. That shot was about 20 metres, probably a little bit more, so it just needed a touch of hold under, and yeah, nice clean strike to the head there. Here we go, mate. Here we go. Well, that one read the script. That one was kind enough, let's check the safety's on. That one was kind enough to actually turn around and present me with a really, really clear shot, and it was only really going to end one way, and that is with one less bird raiding the feed here. Well, there's a sight you're going to need to get used to if you're planning on doing much pigeon shooting with an air gun, and that is the sight of a rapidly departing wood pigeon. Well, that's more like it. That pigeon was nicely settled. Another heart and lung shot, and as you will have seen, a really nice clean kill. Now, I am usually an advocate of headshots, but this is relatively close range, and the impact of a 2-2 pellet hitting home, that shock energy is usually enough to deliver an instant kill. I think the important thing to get through is that I tend to usually place my heart and lung shots lower than a lot of people would think. Firstly, because the top of a pigeon's chest, where the breastbone is thickest, the breast muscle is thickest, the pellet's got a heck of a lot to drill through, and then when it gets through, there's really only the crop there. The actual heart and lung are lower than a lot of people would think, and also, if you strike lower, there's less meat and bone to drill through to hit those vitals, and as I said, you get it right, it is a very swift, clean kill. Okay, well, as often happens with this kind of shooting, the birds have wised up to the fact that this end of the farm isn't a safe place to be, and they've cleared off over to the other side of the farm. Unfortunately, this is really the only area that I can shoot because it gives me a safe fallout zone. It's just not quite so safe at that end. I don't fancy trying it, to be honest with you, so I think we need to back away, wait for another day when the birds feel safe to settle here again. But we will do a little bit more shooting, because looking over my shoulder, Nicky reckons he's seeing the odd rat scuttling about at the other end of the barn, so we'll maybe put a fistful of grain down there and see if we can't shoot one or two of them. And there's a rat. I'll be honest with you, we had to wait quite a long time for that one. They're very edgy, obviously. We haven't moved very far. They've heard us chatting while we were shooting the birds on the other side here, and it has obviously made them very spooky, so I reckon there's more to be had here. So I'm actually going to get Nicky to clear off now and leave me here so I can sit quietly and hopefully pick off some more, and we will leave you with a roundup of the kit that we shot when we first arrived here. So, the kit for today's shoot. The gun is the FX Impact M4. So it's a really stubby, compact bullpup airgun, nice and accurate, a good magazine capacity. Now, this one's sub 12 foot-pounds, so perfect for shooting around the farmyard, and it's 2.2 caliber, so it still hits with a real wallop. Now this gun isn't particularly pellet fussy, but today I've paired it with JTS dead center pellets, the 16 grain version. They're really nice tidally made pellets, and this airgun is very accurate with them. Certainly a very good match. Other kit, I've got my ever faithful Hawke Sidewinder 30 SF scope. It's given years of brilliant service. Now, as I often say, you can expect to lose a little bit of optical quality once you put the scope cam on because of the additional lenses, but this is a pin sharp optic in all light conditions. Do take a look through one if you ever get the chance. Other than that, I have obviously got the scope attached with Sports Match scope mounts, and the silencer is from Eagle Vision Cam. Really nice stubby little silencer, still very effective though, and it's a really good match with this gun. So that's the main kit. Hopefully I can do it some justice. Don't forget to give us a follow on the Airgun Extra Facebook page. We use it to keep you up to date with everything we're up to, and we're also planning some more competitions too. Okay then, so next up, we've got a review of a very affordable telescopic sight that's given me great service for almost a decade. Right, so I've got an affordable telescopic sight here today, and I think it is fair to call this a long-term test because I've been using this scope for the best part of 10 years. So if you notice any knocks and bumps on it, they're my doing. So what we have here is the Richter Optik 3 to 9x50 AOE, distributed in the UK by John Rothery Wholesale. This is a remarkably affordable scope. It has a recommended retail price of just £59.99, and that includes mounts. The service this scope has given me over the years definitely confirms that it is very well constructed. Its tough aluminium body incorporates a 25mm tube. Now it's nitrogen purged to prevent it from fogging up, and it's also shockproof, so it should be able to withstand the recoil of a gas ram or spring airgun. Now in terms of size, it's fairly standard. It's just over 33 centimetres long and weighs 622 grams. The lenses are fully coated with an anti-reflective compound to enhance performance. So combined with that large 50mm objective lens which improves light transmission, the sight picture is bright, clear and surprisingly crisp right to the edges. You've got adjustable magnification from 3 to 9 times, which should be a pretty much perfect match for the sort of affordable sub 12 foot-pound airgun you're likely to pair this scope with. Now the dial that winds the zoom up and down is nice and grippy, and it's actually got a raised knob to improve grip. It turns smoothly but also has a decent amount of torque to prevent it from drifting. Don't rule out those lower magnification settings because They can improve light transmission, making for a brighter sight picture in low light conditions, and also give you a wider field of view, which can help with quick target acquisition. Now, once you wind the zoom up to that 9 times magnification, you've then got that increased precision for tackling longer targets. Parallax adjustment is dialed in by turning the collar at the front of the scope, and just like the zoom ring, it turns nice and smoothly but without feeling too slack. Now, that parallax adjustment helps you to keep the target pin sharp at whatever it ranges at, and obviously also helps you to dial out parallax error, although you still want to make sure that you're looking straight down the scope. Now, this parallax adjustment focuses from infinity right down to less than 10 yards, which is great if you're going to be targeting pests at close range. The windage and elevation turrets are nice and low, which means they shouldn't get in the way if you intend to use any add-ons with this scope. Now, each quarter MOA click adjusts the point of impact by 1/4 of an inch at 100 yards. Now, once you've got those caps off, the dials turn with really clear positive clicks. You can just about turn them with your thumbnail, but in all honesty, it's a job that's better done with a key or screwdriver. A lot of shooters like to shoot the box to check that a scope's adjustments are precise and return to where they should. In all honesty, it's been a long time since I've had a scope that hasn't passed this test, because they just seem to be made to such quality these days. However, shooting the box entails adjusting a scope up, across, down and back across in the hope that it should return to exactly where you started. And I'm pleased to say that in the case of this one, even after all those years of use, it passed that test with flying colours. This scope's fine reticle presents you with an uncluttered sight picture, and it features mil dots to give you clear aiming points to compensate for wind drift and the rise and fall of the pellet. Now, when you first set up, you simply need to use the fast focus dial at the back of the eye bell to get that reticle into clear focus for your eye. It's a job you only need to do once. The reticle can be illuminated red for improved contrast against dark backgrounds, and that's a feature that can be really handy when you're shooting in low light conditions. Now, the dial that turns that illumination on and off is positioned on top of the ocular bell, and it may get in the way of certain add-ons, although I would say that I've been able to attach my scope cam without any problems whatsoever. Now, that dial has 11 different positions, which amount to 11 different power settings of brightness when you're setting that illumination. As I've already said, this scope even comes supplied with a free set of 2-piece mounts. So they fit a dovetail scope rail, and I've got to say they're actually pretty good quality, certainly better quality than a lot of the mounts that I've seen thrown in for free with affordable scopes. Now, you also get a set of push-on flip-up lens covers to keep dust and other muck off the lenses. So that is the Richter Optik 3 to 9x50 AOE telescopic sight. Now, to get those extras plus features including adjustable parallax and an illuminated reticle on a scope that costs under £60 is pretty impressive, especially when you consider that it's also got pretty good optical quality. Now, you get a lot for your money, and most significantly, a scope that's up to the task whether you want it for plinking or pest control. And I can certainly vouch for the fact that it has stood the test of time for me.
The Great British Shooting Show, held on the 13th to the 15th of February 2026 at the NEC Birmingham. Book tickets online at shootingshow.co.uk.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this week, but as ever, we'll be back with more in 2 weeks' time. Thanks again to Crackshot. I'll put a link to their website in the show description. And thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. As I said, we're back with more in a fortnight. In the meantime, enjoy your shooting and stay safe.